guys, welcome to my June TBR. So the reason that I'm doing a TBR this month, which I normally never do, is because there's a readathon that I'm going to be participating in that will also explain the makeup in a bit. And when it comes to readathons, I just really like making videos about the books that I'm going to read and all the things that I'm going to be choosing to do. So first, before we get into that readathon, I want to show you one book that I want to read outside of that readathon this month, and that is the Priory of the Orange Tree. I just want to finish this book finally. I planned on finishing it this month, but I didn't get around to it, so next month I'm gonna try. I just don't want to let this book sit on my TBR for too long, halfway read, because I read it in... I started reading this in March, then I got halfway into it, and then the owls started, and I couldn't let this book count towards the owls. So I didn't continue reading it, and I plan on finishing it this month. That didn't happen. So in June, I'm gonna try to finish it. I still have about 400 pages left, so it's basically as if I'm reading an entire book. This is a high fantasy with dragons. It's just a classic epic fantasy where you follow different people from different parts of the fantasy world. Some people are very kind to the dragons, they live with the dragons, and others the dragons are kind of hostile to. It's been dubbed the feminist Lord of the Rings. So far I'm really enjoying it, but I just need to get around to finishing it because I have a hard time getting through epic fantasy at this scale. Now let's talk about the readathon. So the readathon I'm going to be participating in is the Make Your Mythtaker readathon. This is a readathon hosted by Ashley and Charlotte. I will link their original announcement video down below because it's a rather complex readathon, but in short the point is that you create a character, a myth taker, so a fantasy character, and you choose a class, and then in order to get that class of character you have to finish certain prompts and then read a book for that prompt. And you can kind of create your own story around the character that you're creating. It's very immersive, which I love. I love immersive readathons, and the class that I'm going for, which explains this whole thing, is the witch. I'm gonna be a witch. I wanted to be a witch because I have this story in my mind, which we'll get to later, but basically the character starts out as just a very powerful witch. I just wanted to have a character that has very powerful magical abilities that can then be used later in the story. And I will now show you the prompts that I have to read to become a witch, and also the books that I plan on reading for those. The thing with this readathon is you have to stick to your TBR, so these are set in stone, and also you have to read them in order, which really scares me, so I chose just a bunch of easy short books so that outside of the readathon I can read big chunkier books like this one without stressing about the order in which I'm reading the books. So the first prompt is to read a book with an animal in it, and for that I chose, I have to pronounce this right, for that I chose The Call of Cthulhu. Cthulhu? You know what I'm talking about. This is one of the short stories by H.P. Lovecraft, who I've never read anything of, but I know that he's known for his fantastical horror novels, and honestly, I don't know why I haven't read any of that genre, because it sounds like it's perfect for me, and I'm really in the mood for just some dark, creepy, weird, fantastical stories, and it's very hard to pronounce this. And The Call of Cthulhu is a short story. I can listen to it on audiobook, so I should be able to get through this pretty fast and get a taste of that sweet, sweet fantasy horror. The next prompt was to read a book with a foiled cover. For that one, I went to the library and I got Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This is a very, very popular middle grade novel. It's about this girl who enters this magical school, and then she has to fulfill these trials. And I am a huge fan of any book that has any kind of trials or tournament in it, so I'm extremely excited about this. It's rather long for a middle grade novel, like it's almost 400 pages. I'm very used to middle grade novels being under 300, but I still think I can fly through this because it's still middle grade and the font is rather big, and I'm just excited to get back into a book that's just gonna be like super, super fun. And I think this is, I mean, just look at the cover. This looks so much fun. Step boldly. Yes, I want to step boldly. I had to go to the children's section of my library to get this book, which felt a little awkward because in my library this is not in middle grade, it's in 12 years and under. So that was a little awkward going there. between all the kids. I love reading middle grade. I have nothing against reading middle grade as an adult. I actually think middle grades are some of the most fantastical stories that I've read, but I haven't read a middle grade in a really long time. So there's that. I'm really excited. Then the next prompt is to read a book with a magical battle. And this one is interesting because the thing that you can do in this readathon is at your third prompt you can cross over to another class. The witch can cross over to the mercenary class, and I really wanted that because I could just imagine the story about this witch that's just operating on her own, and then at one point she gets kind of recruited because people notice like her abilities, and she gets recruited in this cool band of mercenaries that work together to probably go on a heist or something, and then they have to go on a mission for the court. Yes, like honestly, this readathon is giving me so many ideas for stories, and I love the creators for that. Thank you. But for the prompt, a magical battle, I am going to read The Library of the Unwritten by A.G. Hackwith. I asked you guys on Twitter if this book had a magical battle, and you said yes, so I'm choosing it for the magical battle. This is, oh my god, I'm so excited about this book. This is a book about a library in hell where all the unwritten books reside, and sometimes a character from one of these unwritten books escapes because he wants to go to our world to talk to his authors and make the author finish their story. And we follow our main character who's kind of in charge of this library of the unwritten and tries to keep everything safe and make sure that no characters escape. But of course one escapes and all sorts of fun ensues. I'm really in the mood for some kind of story that takes place in hell. I don't know why, but I think after reading Ninth House, I'm still, there's this void in me that wants to be filled with stories that are about like hell and heaven and arcane stuff. Very excited. And because through this prompt I'm crossing over to the path of the mercenary, the fourth prompt that I have to fulfill is that of the mercenary, and that prompt is to read a book inspired by history or legend. So the book that I chose for this is a bit of a stretch, but I still think it fits because the book that I want to read is A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. Viktor E. Frankl is a psychiatrist, and he came up with the idea of logotherapy, which is an idea that is inspired by his time during World War II. And it's a kind of psychology that revolves around existentialism and thinking about the meaning of life, you know, man's search for meaning. It's about how people could still find meaning during these devastating times. And I've been wanting to read this book for a very long time, and I think I can fit it in this prompt because it's not a story inspired by history, but the entire point of the book, this psychological content, is inspired by his own history. It's inspired by his time during World War II. So I'm saying it fits for this prompt, and I'm really excited to read this one. Also gonna listen to it on audiobook, and I think it's just one of those books that I'm just gonna slowly go through throughout the month and learn some interesting things. I'm just really interested in seeing and reading about this way of looking at life. And those are the books that I plan on reading in June, or at least the books that I right now will definitely plan on reading in June. I might read more if I somehow read very fast and finish all those books. I might just read some other books, but you know, the reason that I normally don't make TBR videos is because I don't know at the beginning of the month what I'm gonna be reading 3 weeks from now. Only because this is a readathon, I know what I'm gonna be reading for the readathon, but it is a mystery to all of us what else I'm gonna be reading in June, and you will find out in my June wrap-up. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you're going to be participating in the Make Your Myth-taker readathon and what class of character you chose. I'm really excited for it. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon in another one. Goodbye!